Okay, so we need to talk a little bit about a method that we use to um, differentiate mixed costs. So we discussed earlier that we gave a couple of examples regarding mixed costs. Now, we had some for variable costs and fixed costs, but we also said that some costs were a combination of both fixed cost and variable cost. And this high-low method helps us determine, okay, well, I gave you the example of the utility bill that was $10,000, and I speculated that about $1,000 was maybe fixed costs and $9,000 was variable cost. But I'm really just making an educated guess there. I'm aware of the fact that variable cost usually for a company that is operating at close to full capacity, something like utilities, the variable component of the cost is going to be higher. And is it going to be 90%? I have no idea. I just made that up. So that's what we are doing with this high-low method is we are simply saying, okay, here are our total costs for a mixed cost, and now we're going to break down the fixed cost component and the variable cost component. And by doing that, we're able to then take any level of activity, any hypothetical level of activity within our relevant range that we talked about earlier and determine what that cost in total is likely to be. Okay, so we have an example here, and this is a really good example because it's using a 6-month period of time. Most of the examples that I see on the high-low method use 3 or 4 months. So we have a period from January through June, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at total cost for the low month and total cost for the high month. In other words, 63,000 is the highest cost month, 30,000 is the lowest cost month. We also have miles driven. Looks like it ranges from 20,000 to 50,000, and usually these months will be the exact same. If not, there's some kind of a problem. Okay, so we're going to focus on this low month here of January and this high month here of April to do our high-low method calculation for variable costs. And again, if you think about this, and if you kind of are looking here at the numbers, you can tell, if you have any knowledge of math at all, that fixed costs are higher for the lower volume months, right? So if you think about this, 20,000 miles, $30,000 cost here, but look over here, it only went up 13,000. But we're gonna get more specific than that, okay? So what we do is we take the cost for our high month, which is April, 63,000, and we're going to subtract from that the low month of January. That gives us 63,000 minus 30,000, and we're also going to take, in this case, miles driven, our high mileage of 50,000, subtract from that our low mileage of 20,000. And if we do that, we get an equation of $33,000 over $33,000 over 30,000 miles. If we execute this equation out in full, we come up with a variable cost of $1.10 per unit, or per mile driven in this case, okay? That's what we've got. All right, so let's think about this. It says determine the fixed cost by subtracting the total variable cost at either the high or low activity level from the total cost of that level. All right, so we have a little Excel spreadsheet that's been embedded here. And if we look at this, if we recall, if we were to go back, our high cost was 63,000 and our low cost was 30,000. So we're going to say, okay, $63,000 is our total cost for April, $30,000 is our total cost for January. We also are going to say that in April we drove 50,000 miles at a cost of $1.10 per mile variable cost, okay, and that gives us $55,000. In January we drove 20,000 miles at a variable cost of $1.10 per mile, and that gave us $22,000. So what we're doing here is we are proving that fixed costs are $8,000 per month. Now, in a lot of the stuff that you've been working on so far, you've been provided fixed cost. That is not the case here. But what we can do is we can take our total cost, we can use this method, and we can back into total fixed cost. Here's the proof. 63 minus 55 is 8,000, as is 30,000 minus 22,000. Okay, well, very good. What difference does that make? Well, what we can do is this helps us budget. Let's say that we want to come up with a monthly budget for the next month, which would be July. I'm kind of making this up here, and let's just pretend that we estimate in July we're going to drive 45,000 miles. We can calculate, especially because 45,000 is in between 20,000 and 50,000, we're sure to be within our relevant range, so we can calculate our cost. Fixed costs are going to be 8,000. We just figured that out, and even if we didn't, it tells us right here. Variable costs are the same $1.10 per mile times the total mileage of 45,000. I'm using the example of July, which if we execute this out, it's 49.5. We add these two numbers together, and we can budget $57,500 for the for the total cost of transportation for the month of July. Okay, let's go ahead and finish this video up, and then we'll get into some other stuff next.